everyone, welcome to my third YouTube video now. This is me showing you how I made my ORIN the Red doll from Baldur's Gate 3. She's definitely been one of my most well received dolls that I've made, and for her I use a Ghoulia G1 head sculpt. She definitely has the most dynamic armor I think I've ever made of a doll, and she was one of the first dolls I made in my Baldur's Gate 3 doll series. I have now made every character from Baldur's Gate 3 of the main cast, so if you want to see those you can head over to my Instagram and see those. It's at strawbsdolls. I'm now taking more specific character requests. I'm just taking all of the hair out of the head here. I do this just with boiling water above a bowl. First I'll dunk the heads in the water, and then I'll let them kind of get like hot so that the glue will melt, and then I'm able to pull it out easily. I always find G1 heads get really gross in there. They have a lot of like big chunks of glue. It's actually quite grim. But I just kind of allow those chunks to drop into the bowl. Now I did get commissioned to make 2 ORIN dolls, that's why you'll see the 2 heads there, but I'm just going to be showing you how I made one of them. So I'm using Monroe hair from My Little Custom. I get all of my doll hair from here. Their delivery is really fast and they come packaged nicely. I find that the packs are also very reasonably priced for the amount of hair that you'll get. Sometimes I'll use 2 packs and I'll combine, but I've found the Monroe hair colour provides that nice kind of bleachy blonde colour that ORIN has. And I'm just going along and I'm just rooting. Maybe you'll see me kind of separate. I don't stick to a certain amount of hairs for each head, but I would say maybe no more than 10. And now that she's all done, I'm just cutting the end of the hair to make sure that it's all straight, and I'm using some Fabri-Tac in the head to glue it all in place. This is the best stuff I found. It just keeps it all nice in there. Don't mind that gross little bit. We're just gonna let that go in the head, and then I'm giving it a little squeeze to keep everything in place, and make sure that it's all kind of squished together and all of the hairs in there are coated with the glue. You'll see at the back that I left a little strip along the bottom part line. I do this if my characters have hair that needs to go up. I'll find that it just means that the hair doesn't end up looking too bulky at the base, where it's kind of all going to go into that plait. Now I'm going to show you how to sculpt her armor. I'm using an epoxy putty. It's a 2-part. You mix equal parts of each one together, and then that will make like a putty clay kind of consistency. I would recommend using gloves with this. I've been using it a while. The packs do come with gloves when you buy the brand that I've shown you. They do come with gloves. I just find they end up getting torn really easily. And I'll wash my hands frequently between doing it, but definitely probably put some gloves on with this. Now just laying down each part of her armor. Her original armor is a little bit too intricate for me to copy exactly, so I definitely had to adapt how I was going to make it to suit the small frame of the doll. So you'll see that I start with the neck, and then the little pieces I kind of put them on in little like cylinder shapes, and then I'll go in with the piece that I used for rerouting and just shape everything so that it will go into points. I find it's easier to sculpt it once it's on the body, and I can kind of work it and mold it to how I want it to look and what shape I want it to be. Just then I can get a general layout of how big each of my pieces need to be and how far they'll spread. Now I've gone on and laid down some of the body armor pieces. I'm just taking some little rolls that I'm rolling out and then wrapping it around the breastplate pieces to make kind of a layered effect, and then I'm just taking out the little chunks that's left from the middle. And once again, using the reroute tool and going down the middle of each of those cylinders and making them have little incisions in the middle. I find that this helps with dimension once it comes to painting a little bit later on. I can kind of let some red and darker colours get into the grooves, and it just helps everything have a little bit more depth. And this is the armour all done. As you can see, it's a lot simpler than her actual armour, but once it's painted, I find that it looks really effective. Now I'm just going in with a watercolour brush and some eyeshadow. I'm using just a black, and I'm just popping that straight onto the eyelids. I have used a layer of Mr. Super Clear before I did this, just so that the eyeshadow would cling to the eyes a little bit better. You can be a little bit messy with this. I like to think that Orin isn't pristinely smoking her eyeshadow out every time she goes to murder someone, so you can kind of be a little bit messy with it. It allows for kind of a smudged look. I think I prefer that anyway. Orin has little veins in her skin, so I'm just going on and sketching those on. I do kind of like to include a few on the cheek and one on the forehead. I just find that it makes the face look a little bit more dynamic and a little bit more like her in-game model. And here you'll see I'm just adding the whites of her eyes in. She does have very faint pupils, but I found with the scale that the doll is, it's better for me to just keep the pupils white and then add some grey shading to the top of them to kind of give them almost like a shadow and a look of depth. It's a little bit messy now, but I will go in and clean up the whites of the eyes there, and that's just the first layer of that. I'm going in and painting her lips black. I leave the red underneath because I'm going to be painting over it anyway. And now I'm just painting her armour. You'll see that I didn't show finishing off the face, but you'll be able to see it in the final bit anyway. I just took some black and lined the eyes and went over the eyebrows, and then a little bit of red for those veins in her face. You'll be able to see it there a little bit better. I like to go in with a layer of black for the armour first. On my first Orin doll I went in with red, the one that I've kept for myself, but with commission ones, since I've made a couple now, I find that a layer of black works better. It just helps the red to have something to kind of pop on top of, and it helps stick out, and once again helps making that depth that I was talking about earlier. Once the black is all dry, I don't worry about any bit that is kind of smudged on the outside, because it's just acrylic paint. It'll scrape off real easy with my reroute tool. I'll go in and just clean that up, and then I'm just putting a layer of red, kind of sploshing that on. I'm being kind of messy with it. I want it to have a kind of painted effect, and I'll do that a couple times just so I have a little bit of depth with the red. And then I go in with a acrylic gloss, and I'll go and put that on top. That helps the different layers of red that I've used, so the brightest ones will pop and be brighter than the ones underneath. You can kind of see it on that first bit where I put the gloss. It's already showing that the red is popping and being brighter. It also just means that the armour will have a little bit of gloss to it and shimmer. I like to think that this kind of replicates blood and it being like wet, like her armour's wet looking. Because I do kind of think that her armour would be very gross and wet with blood and organs, I suppose. There isn't really a strategic way in which I place the gloss either. I'll just kind of place it wherever I think would look best. Generally, each piece of armour gets a little bit of gloss on it. And now I'm just making the pieces for her belt. So I'll cut a piece and then I'll wrap it around itself just to make it look a little bit thinner. and then I'll go in and wrap it again. This helps kind of make a chain kind of look, and just helps it be a little bit more durable when it's wrapped around like this. You can see that it looks more like a kind of chain linking effect. And I'll just go in and I'll use this. One piece I'll use in kind of a C shape for the bottom half of the breastplate, and then I'll use another piece for the top half of the breastplate. I'm using some liquid fusion glue. If you've had a scalp that's split, it's also good for repairing that. You just leave it for like 24 hours. And then you can see I'm just kind of globbing some on, and I'll let that sit for a day or so, and then that'll dry and be hard in place. And here's me just finishing off a belt. And that's it, that's her belt. And you'll see what she looks like now.